We wish we were gathering for different purposes today. I just want to let you know that the Department of Transportation, the FAA, along with the White House, President Trump, local, state, and federal partners, all working together on this incident in unison. I couldn't be prouder of this team that's been assembled, working tirelessly. Mayor, I want to thank you specifically for your work. A few details I'd like to give all of you, and some of you reported this, but last night, if you live in the D.C. area, you would know that this was a clear night last night. The helicopter was in a standard pattern. If you live in the D.C. area, you'll see helicopters up and down the river. This flight pattern is seen oftentimes when you live in D.C. This was a standard flight pattern last night as well. The American airline flight coming into land was in a standard flight pattern as it was coming into DCA. So this was not unusual with a military aircraft flying the river and aircraft landing at DCA. And again, if you live in the area, you'll see that frequently with those two aircraft working together. As many of you have reported, we have located the two aircrafts. The fuselage of the American airline plane was inverted. It's been located in 3 different sections. It's in about waist-deep water, so that recovery is going to go on today. As that recovery takes place of the fuselage of the aircraft, NTSB is going to start to analyze that aircraft, partner with the FAA with all of the information we have to get the best results possible for the American people. I would just say that safety is our expectation. Everyone who flies in American skies expects that we fly safely, that when you depart an airport, you get to your destination. That didn't happen last night. And I know that President Trump, his administration, the FAA, the DOT, we will not rest until we have answers for the families and for the flying public. You should be assured that when you fly, you're safe. Thank you.
Yes.
For Secretary Duffy, can you reassure Americans that the U.S. still has the safest airspace in the world?
So the question is, can I guarantee the American flying public that the United States has the most safe and secure airspace in the world? And the answer to that is absolutely, yes, we do. We have early indicators of what happened here, and I will tell you with complete confidence, we have the safest airspace in the world.
Okay. Anything about the victims?
So the question is about the victims. The NTSB is going to lead that portion of the contact with the victims. I believe American is going to be involved with that as well, and so will the FAA and the Department of Transportation.
Secretary Duffy,
we're going to take some questions over here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
okay.
Yep.
For Secretary Duffy, the flight path that the helicopter was on, is that a common flight path, and is it normal for helicopters to get clearance to cut across busy approach paths?
So I don't know if you all could hear the question. It's a question about the flight path of the helicopter. I don't want to go into too much detail about the information we have from the FAA, but obviously it is not standard to have aircraft collide. I want to be clear on that. But prior to the collision, the flight paths that were being flown from the military and from American, that was not unusual for what happens in the DC airspace. And as this investigation moves forward, we will be able to provide more information to you about the details of that statement.
I wanted to follow up on that question regarding the flight path, because you said it's standard. So can you speak to the conversations with the air traffic control? Were there blind spots here? I don't know if you think so.
So the question is, were there blind spots with air traffic control? I don't want to make statements about that. I don't lead into that answer. But again, I think whether it was air traffic control, whether it was military aircraft, helicopters, or the American flight, everything was standard in the lead up to the crash. Now obviously something happened here, You'll get more information and more details as this investigation moves forward. We'll learn what happened. But again, those who live in the D.C. area, we see military helicopters fly up and down the river. It's a standard path that they fly. They're used to aircraft landing at DCA, and there's a procedure in place because this happens every day. Something went wrong here. I look forward to the time and point when we can give you that information, but I don't want to comment on that right now.
Okay, next.
What kind of communication was there between the helicopter and the tower, the plane and the tower, and the helicopter and the plane?
I don't want to say too much on the communication between the helicopter and the tower and the airline and the tower, but I will say this: there was communication. It was I would say standard communication. So there was not a breakdown, if that's your question, in communication between the military helicopter and the American airline flight. There was communication between the aircraft and the tower.
Was the plane aware there was a helicopter in the area?
I would say the helicopter was aware that there was a plane in the area.
You mentioned
President,
that.
so the president, you said yesterday that he called into the briefing room. Has he returned to the briefing room since then? Have you spoken? Also, a question about the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. He's saying that there was 30 bodies that have been recovered. That he just said that at the White House. Curious. I know you're in this presser right now, so that's hard for you to update. But I do have the question posed in the briefing room.
I can do the body. First. So in terms of body recovery, we as we recover bodies, we have a process, and we're not counting any bodies until they're in the possession of the medical director. So there may be some fluctuating in numbers that other people would report, but our numbers from the medical examiner.
So just in regard to the president in the briefing room, I've been with this team for the last hour plus as we've worked through the details of the information we wanted to give you. But it is my understanding that either this morning he was going to be in the Situation Room, or the Situation Room is obviously briefing the president. He has been kept in full appraisal of what is taking place.
Okay, last two, you, and you ma'am, first.
You mentioned that the aircraft were on a standard flight pattern. Just curious, when the airport opens at 11 today, will planes be on that flight pattern again, or are they being directed to fly a different way to land?
Jack, do you want to mention it? Yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, safety is paramount, and I don't have that information quite yet from the FAA, so I don't want to provide an information I don't want to provide an answer or inaccurate information on what routes will be flown out of DCA.
Okay.
In regard to the military, I don't have information in regard to the experience of the military pilots. I would just note that this was classified as a training mission. Sometimes people could think that a training mission is someone who is inexperienced in the cockpit. We call these missions that are flown in the D.C. area as our pilots are getting hours in experience training missions. So don't read into that we had how many hours the pilots on the military aircraft had. And you had another question for me that was.
Last night, the president had said that this could be prevented, and also that air traffic control, questioning why they may not have communicated with the helicopter, telling them what to do.
We are going to wait for all the information to come in from this vantage point, but to back up what the president said, what I've seen so far, do I think this was preventable? Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there an acting FAA director?
Thank you, everyone.